All right, party people, finally got the Radial PRO AV1. Let's open it up and see what it's about. So here it is, everybody, the Rode Pro AV1. It is a multi-purpose, multimedia DI box. Compared to your conventional DI boxes, like your mono DI boxes for guitars or your stereo DI boxes for keyboard players, this right here has a multimedia purpose, and I'm just excited about it. So what it is, it's a single DI box with 1/4-inch inputs. You do have a stereo mini jack input right here, so TRS, and then you have 2 RCA inputs right here. And I think that's amazing. On this button right here is basically used for padding up to about 15 decibels. And then of course on the opposite side, you do have an XLR in, right? You got a ground lift button here, and this is your mono summed XLR out. So you could use this DI box with things like computers, iPads, media players, or some kind of audio device that is far away from your mixer, but able to use an XLR cable to get a longer cable run without audio degradation. And there it is. So let's dive into it and talk about why I actually bought this amazing box and how I plan to use it in the future. If you guys don't mind, go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and to keep up with all these videos, all you gotta do is rock that bell. All right, party people, so here's some cables I typically would keep in my backpack, right, for various situations I might wind up in. And this one I call Mr. Don't Work because it don't work for, at least for the purposes I was trying to use it for at the last gig, but I am going to talk about why I have it in the first place, right? So here's a male-to-male barrel connector. That's just simply to convert the female XLR to a male XLR, and then of course on the other end we have the TRS mini jack right here. Now, the way this cable used to work for me when I used it for its intended purpose was, here's my mixer, and when I'm at ceremonies, I would come out of a dedicated channel, which is here, and then into the old school recorders, which were typically mini jack recorder inputs, right? But nowadays, you got recorders with straight up XLR inputs, and they're getting more and more elaborate. So these are far and few between used for that purpose. So for me, I just figured, well, let me take this cable and maybe convert it into something I may be able to use, like say out of my laptop and a long cable run through XLR. But in order to do that effectively, I would have to convert the female into here and then hook this up to, say, an XLR cable. And of course, now the opposite end of that cable would then become a male in to go into a mixer, right? So here's the whole thing in its length. And the first thing we're going to do is test out this cable. And I'm going to show you why I call it don't work. All right, so here's cable number 1, testing right out of the mini jack of the computer. And we're going through all this cable contraption right into channel 1 of the mixer right here. And so in theory, it should be able to play, at least in my head. If I play it, it should play full range and everything. And also on the channel on the mixer, it is not stereo linked, so I can't operate this as an individual channel. And it's also panned right up the middle, right? So no left or right weird stuff going on here. But let's unmute it, play music, so you guys can hear what does that sound like. So now with that particular cable, listening to the music, you guys probably think, oh, okay, that's just a song with some pianos and some pad sounds or synth sounds, and that's the intro, and there's no beat yet. But that song actually started off with bass, a drum kit, those pads, and a piano. But the reason why you hear it all weird like that is because I think that cable is just wired differently inside of it, and I don't know why, but that doesn't work in this application. So in case you were wondering, well, just use the other cables that you know work, and we're going to get to that next. So here we go. Here's another thought and theory. I think because those are combo jacks that I can simply take one of these and hook it into the computer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And of course, take the other end and hook it into one channel of the mixer, right? And so let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so here's the setup. We got the mini jack right out of there into a TRS connector that looks like this, except for it's going into channel 1 of the mixer, right? So let's see what that sounds like. So as you heard, that sounded just like it sounded on the first cable test. So we know both of those in that way and in that matter does not work. So let's move on to the next cable. Oh, do take note whenever I use cables like these, this is a mini jack to mini jack. I do try to look for ways to make cables used for multiple purposes, right? So there are situations where I may use the cable in this configuration as well as in this configuration. Now here's a pretty cool cable. This is a mini jack to stereo XLR, right? It does have a purpose. So let's hook this up and see what does that sound like. So here's the setup. We're coming out of the mini jack of the computer right into channels 1 and 2 with the XLR connectors right there. And so what we're going to have to do now is go ahead and link this. So let's do that. And once I link it, you will see that channel 2 will automatically go up to where channel 1 is, like so. And if you'll notice that I'm selected on channel 1, which is panned to the left. And if I click over on channel 2 here, it is now panned to the right. So these two are now a stereo pair. And for the sake of shock, I'm going to turn the volume down just a little bit. And let's play some music and hear what it sounds like. So obviously with that cable, it does sound like it's supposed to sound. You heard the drums, you heard the bass, you heard the keys, you heard the synth sounds or the pads, whatever that's called, right? But let's move on to the next cable. So just a quick note, I do like to make cables multi-purpose when I can. So in this case, this is a mini jack to stereo left and right RCA. But with these connectors, we can make it a stereo pair of 1/4 inches, right? So let's hook it up. So here's the setup. We are out of the mini jack of the computer. We are definitely going into 2 channels because it is stereo RCA, but they're connected to 1/4 inches, so we can get it into this mixer. And on the computer, they are stereo linked, just like the last cable, like so. And it is panned on channel 1 to the left, but when we click on channel 2 here, it will then pan to the right. So again, these are stereo pair, and let's see what the music sounds like. So I can imagine you're probably thinking, if you have 2 cables that work,
why don't you just use those 2 cables to get audio from your computer over to your mixer?
Well, that's great when the computer's on the desktop with a mixer or near enough, or at least within these cable distances to the mixer. But in my case at that event, that computer that I needed to get a Zoom call audio from, it was more than 25 feet away from me. So I had to use a different method to get the audio from that far away from me into the mixer where I was mixing at. So let's talk about that. So within my live sound setup, I have a lot of DI boxes that literally are living with the appropriate XLR cable. In this case of the stereo DI box for my keys, I have 2 XLR cables, 25 foot in length, and this allows me to quickly set a keyboard player up to just bring their own 1/4 inches right into it, and then out of here, left and right into a mixer. But if I'm using other instruments like say a guitar, which is a mono type of instrument, then I use a DI box with an XLR cable. All right, full warning up front, some of you guys are gonna cringe because you may see me doing some hot swapping, but I will be muting the channels of audio in the program here before I actually do the swap, and that should avoid that pop sound that you guys don't like. All right, everybody, so here we go. We got the mini jack right out of the computer going into my DI box that is unpadded at the moment. So we have a left and right in, but with XLR cables, we have a left and right out going into channels 1 and into channel 2. Now in Xair Edit, we do have these stereo links. So if I move 1, they both go up, channels 1 and 2. And there's the stereo link verification. Now let's play some music and see what does that sound like. Okay, so I've muted it while the music is still playing, and we're going to do a hot swap. So I'm going to take this out of here. There you go. I'm going to take these out of here and then replace them right into channels 1 and channel 2 with the mixer. So there it is, and there it is. And we're going to unmute and see what happens. So here's the first justification for me purchasing the Radial PRO AV1. You heard an obvious difference between when I had that aux cable hooked into the DI box and then the DI box into the mixer versus the aux cable going directly to the mixer. I mean, it was like super loud of a difference when I did the switch, right? So at the event, to get it to work, I did set it up as a aux cable into the DI box and then into the mixer. But what I had to do was literally go on stage, snatch this out from the keyboard player, reroute all of that cable to where that laptop was over 25 feet away from me, hook my aux cable in to get it to work. The thing I had to do though was regain for the computer's output to make it comparable out of the main PA system. Then once I muted everything, took that DI box and had to reroute it back to the stage for the keyboard player, I had to also again readjust the gain for the keyboard's volume. So that's an inconvenience to me. And when you're by yourself doing live sound, you know, it's kind of something else you have to think about. So why stay in that thought process, or why stay in that inconvenience? So now the Pro AV1 will be dedicated to that system if it pops up again. Now let's talk about how this thing actually works. So here's the setup, party people. We got the Pro AV1 with a single XLR cable out of it and going into channel 1 of the mixer. The other thing we got going on over here is channel 1 and 2 on the XR Edit program are unlinked, and it's able to move freely and about by itself now versus being a linked pair. And I did make sure that it was not panned left or right, but right in the middle. So there you go. So the first cable we're going to test out is our mini jack to RCA, but with the 1/4 inch attachments, because we're going to check out first the 1/4 inch. So let's set it up. All right, everybody, there's the setup right out of the laptop into the DI box through the 1/4 inch ports right here. Now they are summed as a left and right out of the single XLR here, which is into channel 1. So we're going to play some music, then we're going to go around the back of the speaker since I only have one and verify if left and right are both playing, because remember, I have 2 left and rights out of this mixer and into channel 1 and 2 into the back of a single speaker here. So let's go ahead and play some music and verify we're getting left and right output out of the speaker. So right here we do have signal out of both channels. We'll turn both channels down, turn up channel 1 only, and down, turn up channel 2 only, and down. So we are good to go with that thought. We're going to move over to the RCA inputs next. So let's go ahead and get these out of here. I'm going to remove these from the ends of the RCA cables. And as you can see right here on the RCAs, that's left in and right in. So we're going to put those in just like they normally would go. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute, and we're going to play some music. So what we're doing here, turning everything down to make sure it is mono summed, so just like it says. And here's the left side. Here's the right side. So the next cable I'm going to test out here is the mini jack to mini jack. So we're going to start by putting it first into the headphone port of the computer. And then we're going to put this in the TRS in right there. So real simple. And we're gonna do the same verification. So let's unmute, play some music, and see what happens. Here's the left side. Here's the right side. And both. So there it is, party people, the Radial PRO AV1 DI box, multimedia purposes. And if you got something out of this video, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and to keep up with all of our new videos, all you got to do is rock that bell. I'm Gerald, and to learn more about what we do here at G5 Productions, all you got to do is visit www.g5productions.com. Let's party. So if one of the justifications for, so obviously one of the justifications for, I'm tripping. Man, I'm belching and stuff all in the video. All right.